Hello, my name is Adam Winrich, and this video is about different falls that I put on the nylon whips that I make and use. This is kind of a follow-up to last week's video about different ways to shape a whip. I posted that video on one of the whip making forums on Facebook, and some good points were brought up by Johnny Ögren from Sweden and Torrance Fisher from California. So I thought I'd make a video about different falls that I use. Some of them on my general cracking whips are just paracord fit inside itself. On some whips that end with an I use a twisted fall. And for my can cutting whips, I don't even put a fall on at all. It just goes straight from the whip to the cracker. So now I'd like to show you these in more detail. So first I'd like to take a look at this set of white bull whips that I made. These are about 5 foot 3 inches long, and these use the most standard fall that I usually use on whips. This is a 2-ply parachute cord fall where it's just the paracord fit inside itself, and then I've pulled back the outside and snipped off the inside piece to sort of form a taper. And it's about 24 inches long, and this whip ends in a 2-strand twist, and then I tie on the fall. So you kind of go from a 2-strand twist down to a 2-ply fall, so it's a smooth transition. I see some people that use falls like this that will end their whip in a 6-plat, and that's too steep of a step down, and it doesn't make a whip that cracks that great in my opinion. So it's better to kind of have a smooth transition from the end of your whip to the fall. So that's what I put on most of my whips, and it's good for like light target cutting and definitely for multiple cracking. And then the other multiple cracking fall setup I use is a twisted fall. This beautiful set of whips are made by Daniel Solomon Shaw of Utah. So this twisted fall is something I started using when I started using Simon Martin's Whip-A-Lace whips. They ended with a little I, and I found they cracked best for me when I would add about a 16-inch fall, half of it twisted to kind of form a taper. And Johnny Ögren from Sweden thought that maybe doing this twisted part makes this a little bit heavier than if I were to just fit paracord inside itself. And I would say they're actually pretty close to the same. This measures 5 millimeters in diameter, and if you just fit the paracord inside itself, it ends up being a little squarish, where it's about 5 millimeters by 4 millimeters. So I use this setup. It's not quite as long of a fall. You could probably if you put a longer fall on sort of this shaped thong, the whip might end up being a little floaty. And then moving on to probably what more people would be interested in. This is a can cutting whip that I made. You can kind of see how bulky it is. And this whip has no fall at all. It just starts with a 2-strand twist. I actually braid this from the point, and then I have a little loop there, and I can just put the cracker directly in there. Now it is also totally possible to take this little loop and tie in a fall, either do like the standard 2-ply fall where the paracord fits inside itself, or loop a piece through and then twist it and tie it off. But because I want to do it for can cutting and not so much for multiple cracking, I want sort of more mass at the end, so I kind of want a quicker taper down to the cracker and just this long cracker. If I were to use one of the other falls I just showed you for multiple cracking, I think it'd be near impossible to try to use one of those to cut a can in half. You really need something heavier with more mass. And just to show you how massive this whip is, I mean, it's not the biggest whip out there, of course, but it's definitely heavier than what I usually make. This is a standard cow whip that I make, and that's 17 millimeters in diameter on the thong there. That's a little Ravenclaw themed whip. And then the can cutting whip is about 19 millimeters. And you can sort of see I end with this 2-strand twist, and that's something with a sort of long taper, good for multiple cracking, but you want this sort of heavy, quick taper down for can cutting. Well, that was my video about different falls that I use. Right now I'm also selling a few whips in the summer of 2020. So if you want to see more pictures of the whips that I make, just check out my Instagram. It's @WinRichAdam on Instagram. Thanks for watching.